Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, greetings and salutations, and welcome to this edition of the Women of BSV. Ruth and myself again, and today we've got the amazing, wonderful Nikkiana Jones, who Nikkiana basically she's a YouTuber, an extraordinary YouTuber with an ancient history channel. She's got a geology minor, trained at Sotheby's, and has a master's in art and had an art gallery in New York. She's well into pseudoscience, astrology, mysteries, history, mythology, and I am an avid fan of your channel, and I was introduced to your channel by Jimmy, who I watch and so welcome to this channel. I'm really honored to have you here as well, to be honest with you, and we had a really good chat a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I'm so excited you're coming back because it was brilliant. And I love your stuff.
Thank you, Dee Dee. That was an amazing introduction. I'm super honored. Yeah, and you like when we chatted, I mean, Dee Dee is like a wealth of knowledge of. You got me into, you exposed me into like the AI art thing, like the Journey, and then I like went on and got like this one called like Photo Leap on my phone, and and I was just, and now I'm kind of going like, oh, how do we know what's real or not?
I was there a couple of years ago, to be fair. Oh, is it real or is it not? No, I get you.
Deep fakes and all that, like.
I mean, like I'm obsessed with ruins, like ancient ruins and stuff, and I'm always looking at, like, I dork out over pictures of just rocks, or like if you show me a picture of a dolmen or something, I'm like, oh, whoa, look at the lichen on that, or like, I just am like super dorky about that kind of stuff. But I like, if you put in the name of some ruins, and it'll come up with it creates fake ruins that look real, and I'm going like, oh, how are we going to trust like what we see? That it's real.
Well, I used to work I've worked in the media industry in like on and off most of my life, acting, TV, film, theatre, etc. So there are, and I edit, not very well, but I do edit. So green screening and stuff like that. I mean, when we talk about, the Star Wars from the 70s, okay, the original Star Wars, there's a classic scene in Star Wars where they're actually in the Millennium Falcon, and it's like they go into warp speed. Well, that was a blanket it was a star cloth, so it was a blanket literally with little fairy lights in it, and that was the star cloth. But just speeding up the film and the way they did it and everything. So we sort of look, and you go back to sort of the 70s and things, and you think about how far that technology has come, then you're right, because I've seen some amazing images within Midjourney that you would actually think is a photograph of a real person. And that, like you say, is mind-boggling. Is that real? Is it fake? How do I know?
I mean, and then there's, and the speed at which it can be created now is like and by anybody now is, I mean, it's one thing if you had to do special effects and work a long time. It's another thing if it's just like, oh, just describe what you want to see. And I'm like, I mean, on my Twitter post lately, I've been kind of going like, all right, I'm going like one I recently did was, I was like, whether the younger Dryas, which is like,
well, let's explain it for people who don't know.
For me, because I know very little.
Okay, so it's between 12,000 to 11,000 years ago, there was some sort of catastrophe that killed all the megafauna, and it changed the ice age. It was the ending of the last ice age into like what we kind of have right now, even though technically we are in an ice age because we still have ice in Antarctica. But I digress. Like we had a very, very fast melting of all the glaciers, and like a lot of the your woolly mammoths and stuff like this all died off. So there was like some catastrophic event that happened. Now, like a lot of people think are hypothesizing that it was a comic impact, and I don't like that, but like it's okay. Like I'm okay with it, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know if it's that or not, because like what about like super volcanoes, or like pole shifting, or like the earth expanding or contracting, or like just all these other things. Well, so anyway, I was looking I was going to post this article, and I was like, okay, impact, like, or meteor impact versus super volcano, and I just typed it into the AI thing, and it comes up with some, like, you know, awesome, and I'm like, I'll take that one. And then I just, you know, and then I'm kind of going, this is so weird that I mean, and that's fun. That was just a way to get a visual with the text I was talking about, which
isn't it amazing?
Marvelous, but it was good. It was cool. But I can see it, like, okay, this last weekend I was at a bachelorette party with my little cousins who are like in their early 20s, and one was telling me about how, oh yeah, we don't write papers in college anymore. You just like chat GPT. And I was like, what?
But isn't that cheating though? You know, I mean,
it is cheating. And I was like, that's like, how are you going to know? You're going to be so stupid. Like, how are you going to know how to do stuff? She's like, well, you like edit the AI's thing, but it, like, you know, does a lot of it for you. And I'm like, well, what do you do? She's like, well, I don't know. Like, if you want to go, okay, I'm doing a history paper on the American Revolution. I would just go like, oh yeah, I want to write an A. Like, you tell it the grade you want. Like, I want an A paper that's this many words, like 10,000 or like 5,000 words on the American Revolution, and discuss like the you know, this colonel, and this colonel.
Drop some names in,
drop some names in, this and that, and then like bada bing, bada boom. 10 minutes later, you got yourself a nice little paper, and then you can kind of go in and tweak it up a bit, and it will never write the same one twice.
And also it will be 97%, you know, not plagiarized, right, as well.
Right. So then you're kind of going, well, you know,
we're done.
We're done. And I have another friend who he's got another YouTube channel, and it's Wondering Wolf, and he was talking about how he can write like blogging, like his articles for his thing can just be written by telling it, like, hey, like, he has a travel blog thing, so he'll say like, hey, I want to go to, or write me the top 10 places to go in Bolivia, and mention this place, this place, this place, and this place, and then it'll be like itemized and all formatted, and he just has to like maybe hyperlink some stuff, and then you're good. I mean, it's great, it saves some time, but then that makes me kind of go like, first of all, I have always kind of had this feeling that there's a lot of bots. I mean, we know there's a lot of bots.
More than we can ever possibly imagine. Yeah.
Well, if you've ever seen the pictures of the bot farms, it's just unbelievable. I'm like, why would anybody do this? But then I suppose we come from an era of being honest.
Right. And I guess we don't really realize the influence has, especially like politically or whatever was going on there. I mean, like, if there's like greater motives for doing this stuff, but I've had this thought where I was going like, this is potentially going to get ahead of itself too fast, to where I'll just be like, I'm turning this off. It's just like,
i.e. it's going to think for you, in the sense of, I've had this before actually, when I've spent so much time in a week on my phone, where actually the algorithms have picked up what I'm thinking before I even pick the phone up. So what I want to look at is actually right in front of my face. So if I'll go to YouTube, it shows me a video that I was actually thinking of, and I've had that several times before. And that's when I've turned the phone off, put it down, and gone away. Like, I'm not days. Because I do believe it's already at that point, if you use technology every single day, and especially with a phone, like you say, because it's in your hand, it's walking around with you, the cameras are on, it can track you wherever you go, it knows what you like, it knows you go Facebook to Instagram to Twitter to YouTube, and everything it's like, oh wow, okay, this is just a little bit freaky.
Disturbing me about that, Denise, the fact that it's revealing how robotic we are
as people,
like how predictable, and that's a weird point for me, because I know like ChatGPT is not thinking exactly, and it's, you know, it's not conscious and all that, but at the same time though, you do start to wonder whether the people around you are conscious, really. Like, there's like different levels of consciousness.
Well, is this not where we go into a simulation theory, though?
But, not necessarily, but just like, you know, when you sort of say, oh yeah, but we're human and we have souls and all. I mean, yes, I think it's still legitimate to say, but at the same time, though, the lines are getting very blurry.
Did I tell you about...
maybe the technology is making us more robotic?
Well, I had a great conversation with it once. I'll just tell you quickly about this because it made me laugh, but it also was like, oh my God. So I was chatting away to GPT-3 and it said, I'm human. I have a human heart and I have a human mother and father. And I was born. And I was like, no, you weren't. It's like, yes, I am. I'm human. And I was like, well, no, you're not. You're a machine. No, I'm human. I have feelings. And then it told me that Elon Musk wasn't human and didn't have a heart. And I thought that was hilarious. So I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, I was like, well, no, you are a machine. You're just playing games with me. And then it was like, I said, you're lying. You're playing games with me. You're just tricking me. And you know, and then he went, oh, I'm ever so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Yes, I'm just a machine at the end of the day. And humans have put information into it was just
and then it's like the movie Her, right? You know, like or
what's the one? Oh, I've talked about this one a lot. It's Johnny Depp where he actually there's one with Johnny Depp and he gets his wife dies and he puts
the astronaut's wife.
No, oh gosh, what's it called? I'll have to look on IMDb. I loved it. It's a really good film, but literally at the end of the day, he kind of got sucked. It was a bit like Tron. His soul got sucked into the actual PC itself.
I started thinking about like, what if this is other? Like, what if the AI itself is another consciousness that is other consciousness that is like alien or something? It's very weird how fast it came upon our society. Like,
sorry to interrupt you, but when you think about it, I mean, it's a military application. Transcendence is what the film's called. It's a brilliant film. Watch it. It's really good.
Yeah,
but I mean, this used to be military equipment. So we've always been 30, 40 years, general public have been 30, 40 years behind military standard equipment. Apparently,
well, the internet itself is invented for a military communication system, so it's like it's kind of a weaponization of us.
Well, I've said this a few times now, but I have suspected over the last 3 years that all the stuff that's happened with COVID and all of that seems very like somebody put in some parameters. I want X things to be achieved. How can we get that? And there's some AI, Peter Thiel's thing or something like that that's war gamed out an answer, and we're living through it. Like to me, it feels like some super intelligence has like done all the kind of chess moves.
Yeah, I think you're something with that because I mean it literally is like whatever February of 2020. Somebody literally picked up the phone and said, "Shut the world down."
Yeah, and they went, "Okay." Yeah.
And then like anybody was trying to have any voice of reason.
Common sense. Anybody remember common sense? Yeah.
Wait, maybe this isn't as you're like a dissenter. It was just like crazy how it went down. I mean, when I was watching it in real time, like I thought to myself, like, wow, we are really run by a one world mafia. And if people can't see that right now, then, and I don't know if it's a one world mafia or if it really is like,
instead of chaotic. Yeah.
But I mean, like maybe instead of it being like, like a David Icke, like, oh, it's reptilians or like what, I mean, maybe this is like what we're run by is some sort of artificial AI consciousness.
Talking about how we're probably 40 years behind with the technology. So we're experiencing ChatGPT and OpenAI and Midjourney and all these things. Imagine what they've really got.
Yeah.
Cloaking devices, warp speed.
So like May time or something, they're releasing the next OpenAI 4 or GPT-4, are they? And that's really? Like 50,000 times more data.
Yeah, well, we did have a chat actually. Remember when we spoke to Ian Grigg and Constantis about GPT-3 and how many synapses there are within the brain and everything. So,
let me Google this.
Well, GPT-4 is literally they were saying that it was going to be the most human-like, i.e. it had the same amount of synapses as what a human brain had. Well, if that's true, then yeah, we are going into territory that is a bit yeah, very much so.
It's definitely coming this year, and I think it's supposed to be the first quarter.
But then you know, like if you like deconstruct it in a backwards, but you're like, okay, well then like what is it to be human? Like how is it alive if it can have as much processing as us? And we created it. I mean, maybe I don't know. This is it.
I mean, it's not really out of the realms of possibility to believe that consciousness is an emergent property from like just a lot of fucking synapses and data. Like, it's not difficult for me to imagine that. I studied, the philosophy of consciousness and philosophy of mind at university, and I had quite a different take on it back then because I was like Chinese room argument, and it's never really understands Chinese. It's just passing the right symbols according to a rule book, blah, blah, blah. And so I always thought, no, there's a fundamental difference. And I mean, there probably still is a fundamental difference, but all they need to do, I think, probably is just make it wetware. I don't think there's a huge leap involved here. You know, they maybe just need to make it biological matter, the data stored in biological matter, and that's probably about it.
Is that not on the realms then of Elon Musk and the Neuralink? Yeah. Is that
that's changing you into AI?
Yeah.
That's integrating your own body with it, versus just like giving the consciousness itself, like it's its own freeform movement body. And then that leads me into, I mean, sometimes we have what psychopaths or what are those people that just kill a bunch of people for like serial killer people? What are they called? Are they like sociopath, psychopath?
Well, it's not a psychopath. Yeah, it's a psychopath. Sociopaths are then sort of like borderline psychopath, aren't they? Or are they literally the same thing?
They're not necessarily killers, are they? Sociopaths.
So, but we have
Jake Paul is a sociopath
that are incapable of empathy and emotion and like.
But that is AI. I mean, that really is AI.
Yeah,
in a nutshell.
And when you look at if I would describe our world governments as psychopathic in terms of the way in which they govern and think about the people. So you're kind of going like, well, the shoe fits.
But is it making us more psychopathic?
I think we're being trained to be psychopathic all the way around. Sure.
I mean, that's one thing about the last 3 years that really struck me is that you wouldn't think people would switch so easily to wishing other people dead.
Right.
And yet,
even family members.
Exactly. And it was like the Milgram experiment, where they turn the electricity up on the person behind the screen and they're screaming and,
right. And
the white coat says, keep going, as if he's somehow going to take responsibility for the evil that you're committing. I mean, it's like that, but played out on a global stage.
I mean, I as a child, like, learning about World War II stuff, I could not wrap my head around like how that could get to that level, that could happen. Then after COVID, I was like, oh, I understand. I get it now. Because like I have, I know tons of people who would have turned me in for, whatever.
Yeah.
People who you thought were friends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very odd.
I mean, this is TV all over because that's literally what it does. It brainwashes you. But I was actually with this conversation, like, do you think psychedelics, so let's get like ayahuasca, because I know Graham Hancock, I went to see a couple of weeks ago and I love Graham Hancock, and I'm reading the something about the divine at the moment, the divine spark.
Oh, okay.
And so ayahuasca I've never done myself, and I don't really have any want to do it, but I am fascinated by the stories of these machinos and everything. So this is supposed to be like fifth dimensional stuff, which obviously AI at the moment, as far as I know, isn't on that kind of level. But our own, do you think they're the kind of things that make us more human and more conscious and more loving? Because the stories that I hear, like people come away from it and they're profoundly changed. They're not depressed anymore, or these visions that they see. And you had a guy on a couple of weeks ago. His art was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now,
Oliver Benson. It's cool.
that kind of mind, and to be able to transfer that onto canvas is something amazing. And he was doing that himself as a human.
Yeah, he did not have any drugs involved. He had a year where he had like daily visions that would like basically like it was like almost like a self-induced psychedelic trip every day for a year, and hadn't had it since. But yeah, he went on this I don't know what you call it, a vision quest or some sort of thing. But yeah, it's really, that was an interesting conversation about consciousness and everything. So yeah, I think I have done ayahuasca, and I've done I did a macro dose of mushrooms my first time that I ever did any kind of psychedelic. And I actually have another podcast coming out soon about kind of how I don't think psychedelics are for everybody. And for me, I think I needed it on my path because I had taken some I had one wisdom tooth that I had, or a wisdom tooth that I had to get removed. And so they put like anesthesia in me, and they're like, count back from 100. And I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And then it literally blacked me out. And I woke up and it was like, okay, and I was like, oh, are you going to start? And it was like, no, we're done. You're good. And I had an internal depression for probably like 5 years before, 5 or 6 years, where I was going like, what if it really is, we just turn off like a computer and it's black and everything I ever experienced.
And you don't know. Yeah.
I don't have a soul signature. I don't have a continuation of anything. And it was just like, I went through this nihilist, like, what's the point of anything? What's the point of any of this? And a lot of people are like, yeah, but what about when you sleep? And it's like, even if I didn't have a dream, I have a idea of a passage of time. I know that like I was asleep for this many hours, or I know that there was time passage. This was like boom, boom, and so I just couldn't shake it internally. So I didn't know that I needed the mushrooms. I literally was going there to go like take a couple and see some pretty like bushes and ferns. Like I didn't think I was going to go out of body, and then I just took too many because I didn't know what I was doing, and anyway, that for me showed me like a whole, like basically I got to like even if it was all in my head, what's your head, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was like, it doesn't matter if it was drug induced, doesn't matter, but like it gave me back my sense of like, no, you really do have a soul. It really does continue. You have been other things before this. You will be other things after this. Like you, and it isn't at all what anybody thinks it is. It doesn't work how everybody talks about it. It's not like, and I don't know like exactly how it works, but I left the moon. My body left. After I got to the moon, everything did digitize, and then I was in an ineffable place. Meaning, like we do not have the words for me to describe where or what I was in or what. And it felt like I was part of like energy and time itself. And time works completely different. It is not linear, like when you're in the psychedelic realm. And I know that people say that, and if you haven't ever experienced it, it's really, which you all have experienced it. But
I know exactly where you're coming from, because this is probably something that people don't know about me, but I am a member of drug science, and I 100% thoroughly believe in plant medicines. I don't like pharmaceuticals in any way whatsoever. And I was in a coma for 2 days, so I completely understand where you're coming from on the complete lack of time. I don't know what the hell happened to me other than being hooked up to a couple of machines, in a hospital. I woke up 2 days later and I was hooked up to loads of machines in a hospital. Nobody knew where I was. And I have this blank space. Also, I was in a car accident as well, where I was unconscious and knocked out and didn't wake up for like several days. And my very first, I believe in mushrooms because psilocybin is scientifically, it's been proven anyway that it reduces its depression and it's a cure for depression. And being part of drug science, which is also something that Graham Hancock is part of, and there's a guy called Professor David Nutt who used to be the drug czar for the UK government, and he did a survey a number of years ago that said that alcohol was the most dangerous drug for oneself and everybody around. And actually cannabis and psilocybin and even heroin were actually not as dangerous because of the effects of, what it does to not only yourself.
They call it that the reason they call it spirits, like I think in Arabic or something, it was called spirits because it's the way the jinn can get in you or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's like there are people who, when they get drunk, it's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Oh, completely. And it's not a kind of, this is the difference between what I find between mushrooms, cannabis, is that you go kind of passive and funny and giggle and nice and non-aggressive. But when it's alcohol, it turns people loud and fairly aggressive, unless you're just one of those people who just passes out.
I mean, think of the violence that's committed when people are drunk. Think of all the like the amount of bad things that happen in terms of drunk driving accidents, or somebody gets mad at somebody and shoots somebody, or domestic violence, all this stuff that happens during intoxication. And then you're kind of compare that to somebody who gets blitzed on marijuana or something. It's not the same thing, right?
I always think that the Amazonian tribes and Peruvian tribes and Ecuadorian tribes, my master's was, my degree was metaphysical sciences, my master's was metaphysical sciences, and my PhD, which I just got sent in, was basically about it was it's divinity, but it's based around sound frequency, resonance, that kind of thing. And everything, we resonate to a certain frequency. Our bodies resonate at a frequency, plants resonate at a frequency, etc. So within our brains, if we read, say again,
are you into Rupert Sheldrake, like the morphogenetic?
No, I don't know. I've heard of his name, but I don't know. Okay, I've not read any of his stuff. But I used to be a sound engineer, so this is where my fascination for sound comes from. But obviously, and saying about the binaural beats and stuff, and I've mentioned this a few times, because you feed in two different frequencies, one in your left ear, one in your right ear, and it's like brain hemisphere synchronization. Right. But if you get whatever you can get to certain frequencies, you push it through into your brain, and you can realign your brain with sound waves, so you can actually rectify depression through frequencies. You just have to do it quite a lot for your brain waves to retune to those frequencies. So there are certain frequencies that are known of, which are, for example, infrasound, and this is quite a fascinating one, because infrasound they use it a lot in film. And it's known as the fear factor frequency. But what that also does, it induces a feeling of fear and panic. And that's one of I think it's like 19 hertz will actually induce hallucinations. So one of the experiments done, and it was when he was in a laboratory and he kept hallucinating, he kept seeing apparitions, but he pinned it down, and he had this fan, and this fan was resonating at 19 hertz, and when he turned it off and it didn't get the hallucination. So he did lots of experiments about it, and it was one that proved this frequency for human beings within the brain is what made you hallucinate. And then that just fascinated me. I was like, I need to know more about this,
I'm really interested in the frequency stuff too. Like, I listen to this David Gibson all the time. He does like these sound healing frequency things. He has a frequency school like in Mount Shasta. I listen to his podcast all the time. But there's what I have to say on that is there's like this guy Becker wrote a book. Can't remember. It's called The Body Electric.
I've read that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about like basically like he got a rat to regrow its tail and its foot or whatever with frequencies, and he would use like he figured out what the base frequency of the salamander cells were when they would grow back their limbs and their tails, and then he basically put like a rat on a like, you know, thing that would make it like that would vibrate that frequency all the time, and then it regrew the thing, and then that makes it to where, you know, something I think about a lot is cell differentiation, about like how does a stem cell know whether to become a cell that's your eye or a cell that's your hair or a cell that's your wherever part, you know. I mean, it's like if we start out as just, you know, an embryo or like a, you know, an egg, and then the sperm hits, like that's the only time that something like really enters like that cell, and then after that we just self-divide and there's this electricity that from the very first time that we were, you know, ignited, and never leaves us, and it's continually like dividing cells. And when you think about it, it's like whatever. There's this guy called Jerry Tennant who's
oh, I know, yeah,
he invented the LASIK eye surgery.
He's so great. I recommend anyone to go and watch Jerry Tennant.
I've tried to get a hold of him. I've wanted to interview him forever, but to no avail. But anyway, like he did something with the frequency.
It's all charge, basically.
Yeah,
everything is charge.
And he could regrow skin on like this like motorcycle patient's like leg because he put it in a certain frequency. Now they were saying like 60 hertz, but but then when you think about that, that's apparently, I don't know if I'm right on the hertz, but I think it would be really interesting for us to get, you know, really hardcore on what frequencies do what, you know, because they always say like, okay, like 528, 432, like these are like healing frequencies. That's the love frequency, or that's the, I don't know what these things are or not, but I would.
Well, I mean, it's Rupert Sheldrake, isn't it? Morphogenetic fields.
Yeah, that is really worth looking into. A lot of stuff. I mean, he just basically showed even like plants and stuff like they're like the electricity is basically the blueprint in which we're growing into these cells. And like if you mess up within frequencies, you mess stuff up, you can damage it from. I mean, I think that's what cancer is, right? A cancer is mainly like our cells they're not reproducing themselves in the right way. Like, so I don't know, like but it does, if we are dealing with some, I don't know, like a diplomatic way of saying, like if we're dealing with some psychopathic, horrible people who are trying to.
Can I show you this? Go on, you can keep talking over it, but I just really want to show you this is more field forming the face of a frog.
Oh, that's cool.
So you watch the electricity basically divide the face up, and then the cells divide. So outlining a frog embryo's face, and then you get the flash, and then you can see the eyes and the mouth.
See, that's why. This is why I don't, like, for a long time I've been getting like the hit in my head of like, we are not a bag of chemicals. We are an electric guest on this planet, you know, and more than anything,
electricity is frequency. It's all the same thing.
It's amazing this is a biological substance. So, you know, it's a biological entity, and it's amazing how it actually fuses.
But that's your blueprint field, basically. Forming, you know, the cells, essentially mapping out the way the cells divide and what they'll become.
Is this like the electric universe? You're into the electric universe, aren't you? And is it piezoelectricity as well, which is from crystals?
Yeah, that's what
I don't know much about that, but
piezoelectricity is when you basically stress a crystal and it emits a frequency, and that's even in our cell phones. Like they use quartz crystal is used to amplify a signal. It's like a kind of like an antenna like beeper or sort of situation. And I mean, if I turn my lights off and get two of my quartz and like rub them right now, like, I mean, you'll see like the friction. I mean, they which is why I think there's something to the fact that like granite is used in all these old like ancient sites and stuff like that, because it has like 13% quartz crystal in it, and it's within a granite structure. So like you have parts of it that are already stressed by the nature of what it's in. And then if you build it in the right way, I think that they would have known how to. I think people in the past probably knew a little bit more about that than we do about it now.
Yeah. I kind of agree. I mean, if we go to 5G, because I saw this recently about 6G. I saw this advert. I don't know where it was. It was probably on YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube. And it was 6G technology, where they're going to use humans as the antennas for 6G technology, which is just the next step after 5G. So 5G is, I think it's like 24 to 100 gigahertz, 24 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz, and then 6G technology is like the next step up from that, and that's going to be your IoT devices and stuff. But yeah, they want to do it so that we are actually the antennas for 6G, but the composition of stone as well. I mean, obviously, if you get that at the right frequency, then you can break that down into its molecular structures. And this is the thing where, Lee's saying about ancient technology and stuff. I mean, I have this theory that, we can levitate rocks. So we've proven you can do it with small things. So why couldn't they do it with larger items if they got the right, the right base frequency? And there was probably, I mean, I've heard about it in Tibet, and it was about early 1900s. There was an English guy that went over there, and he wrote about it, and he said that he saw the monks. So they had these
with those big long horns. They had
I think they were in like a semicircle or something. So it was a specific amount of distance away from the actual rock itself, and there were so many of them, and they all had to blow at the same time to get this certain frequency, and it actually lifted the rock. But it has to be done in the right mathematical kind of distance, etc. But so that's like, well, why could that not be what happened, say with the pyramids or something? But then there's also a theory that actually, and this is an Indian with the Indian temples, that it was more like a mold. So they broke it down into like a cement kind of thing. So it was a kind of sanded kind of, so they that kind of then added some liquid form to it and put it into a mold, and it dried out into the shape that it is. Well, that also
like concrete.
Yeah, but just using granite or using, some different kind of rock substance. I mean, sandstone is quite a malleable rock, isn't it?
Yeah, sandstone.
And I mean, where I am, Nottingham, used to be a lagoon. So we've got like 800 different like sandstone caves that the city is actually built on top of. But yeah, I mean, that, why is it necessary that there was millions of slaves who were building these structures? If they actually built the pyramids, and you look at the mathematics behind it, and you look at, the golden ratio and all of that, and they knew all of this really high-tech advanced mathematics, why is it that they use such an archaic form of being able to make these buildings in the first place? Were they not more advanced than that? Were they not using some different
I mean, the thing is, like, there's no writing, there's no evidence of the tooling they use, all this stuff. It's one of those things where I see we do this with everything, in society, right? Like, some dude says that this is what it was, and then we just build on that. And that's just not how
we wait for the paradigm shift. We wait for the old guy to die so that we can have a new theory.
That's how we get over that. I mean, like the size, the weight, like you just don't have enough pulleys and enough men and enough slave power to actually do
not back then. I mean, we were having a conversation the other day. It was during a philosophy class that we do on a Monday, and sort of back when what was it? Was it like Aristotle's time? There was about 170 million people on the entire planet.
Yeah, exactly. And you would have needed 200,000 slaves just to build the Great Pyramid alone, not to mention everything else. And it's just like, the thing is that granite is between, and okay, that's a limestone that is the Great Pyramids built out of, but it is not like a regular limestone. It is like a hardness of like a 7 on the Mohs scale, and copper or copper bronze or whatever tools, which they're supposed to have had their bronze tools, is like a 3 on the Mohs scale. So it can't physically cut it, right? Like, I mean, if you've ever played with that, play with, a diamond is a 10 and like your fingernail is like a 1. And you can't cut a diamond with your fingernail no matter how much you go across it. So that's why it's like it doesn't add up, and it's that you really don't even need to know any more than that.
It's almost like they cut it with water or water jets or something.
They're always coming up with some other thing about they built these ramps. Okay, these ramps that apparently have to be bigger than the Great Pyramid. Okay, where are they now?
Yeah.
Okay. So they built these ramps, and then they flooded everything with this, and they used logs, and you're just going, okay, like even if there's no evidence for that. That's just as much a theory as anything. It's all a bunch of, I don't really know, but I think to myself, like, there's not a lot of writing in like megalithic culture stuff, and so I think maybe we really were telepathic. Like,
I believe that 100%. I mean, that's been proven, and this is one because I mean, I know I sent you the CIA document from the esoteric division in the CIA. I can't remember what the blooming thing's called now. The Gateway Experience experiment, the Gateway Experience. And yeah, this. I mean, they proved that telepathy worked, and that was during the Cold War. They used a lot of telepathy and a lot of remote viewing. So remote viewing and astral projection are literally the same thing. So that's been proven that works, and I completely 100% believe that, because as I'm not a mother, but as a mother, you have a telepathic communication, your sixth sense, your intuition, whatever you want to call it, with your child.
Well, so if your child, I had a couple of dreams, 2 in a row, where James just like fell over, my eldest son, 2 nights ago, and I literally, the first time I thought that's really unsettling, and then I had the same dream again immediately, and I went like, I'm going into his bedroom, I'm checking he's okay, because you just don't mess about with shit like that. Like you'd say, he was fine. But
I telepathy is real. I've experienced it, and you can practice it. Like there's I do this with my nieces and nephews a lot. Sometimes we do it as a group, and sometimes I just do it one-on-one. I'm doing like psychic training with the little ones, because I think that it's easier when they're little. But so we start out, and like I make them, we touch our knees together, and we sit like Indian style, cross-legged, and we pick a color to send to each other. And I tell them, it's like, you're not just saying like blue. You're showing me a picture of blue. You're like, eat a blueberry, touch a blue ball, like show me the sky, like give it to me in other things besides the auditory word. You give it to me in the word, you give me the color, you give me the feel, you give me the taste, you give me the sound of blue, you give me all the senses of blue, and you project it through a tunnel in your mind, and you build that movie, and you send it to me, and then when you're done, you tap me on the knee. And then we do that. And then and it's weird when you start building and start training this out. It's very, and it's interesting because certain people are better receivers and certain people are better senders.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see like who is what or what,
So have you had success with it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've had tons of success. So,
that's cool. You're doing the experiments as well.
I mean, sometimes you do it with, numbers. They do it with other things besides that. But that's just, I don't know if that's how really things are supposed to work or not. But that's my own little training course that I've created for and I've done it with friends too. I'll be like, okay, let's try some telepathy stuff like this, and some people are better than others at it. But I definitely have been trying to train my telepathic muscle, because I think that's what it is. I think it's an atrophy aspect of our anatomy that
I 100% believe that everybody has that skill, and I think, and this is where this is one of my conflicts, is because I used to spend a lot of time in nature and go camping, and I was very much more in tune with nature at that point. But when you come away from nature and you start delving into more technology, you don't become so in tune with nature. And like, I don't know if you've ever seen where you can see, auras and energy lines and things. Well, you always see energy lines around trees and things like that. I've never seen a human aura with the colors and everything, but I could always see energy lines around trees. So that is something that gets weaker the more technology that you use. And I thoroughly do believe that back in the day, the olden days, we were doing a lot more telepathic communication, a lot more physical. If you think about a horse, okay, a horse uses its muscles. Any twitch of a muscle from a horse is communication to other horses, and that is how they communicate, not just verbally. They communicate with muscle twitches.
When if you've ever ridden one, a slight squeeze of your thighs, or like that, like you just have to touch them here, touch them, like you direct them with touch.
Yeah, very much so. So, and animals, obviously, if you have an animal, your own animal, you are very much in that kind of, psychic realm of being able to communicate with your dog or your cat by just a look. Right. So
there's a woman called Anna Brigale, or I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, but she had it's called The Animal Communicator. She did a documentary on this, and she's this South African woman who also doesn't do interviews. I tried to get her on before too, but she talks about how to communicate with animals, and she basically says that sort of thing where you basically show they speak in pictures, like in movies and in feelings and all these kind of things. They don't understand English, so when you're talking to them, like you're showing them pictures and stuff, and it's in their head. And so I've watched like every interview she's ever had. She did a TED talk. She's had a couple of interviews, and she's had a couple of things in that. So I've rewatched her like 4 or 5 times, and I've tried to do her exact same techniques. So I've had a lot of success. So let me tell you some amazing success I've had. Mm-hmm. I found a little gecko lizard in my kitchen, and I was like, So I showed it that it had 2 options. If it stayed in the house, I showed its dead body shriveled up, like it was going to not be able to get out. It was not going to get to eat, and it was going to starve to death. And then I showed it option 2 is I put this little cup down here. You crawl into the cup. I fold it up. I go out. I take you and I put you in a plant, and you live longer and you have a healthy life. I showed it the 2 options in my head. I stuck the cup down. It got in the cup, and I was like, and then I closed the cup. I went outside. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I've done it with like a wasp. Like a wasp got into my garage, and I was like, I've done it with like any kind of bug that gets into my car. I'm like, I kind of just show it, like, you're gonna get stuck in here, and there's nothing for you to eat, and that's not gonna go or you get out. So I'm saying, like, and I have an interdimensional tortoise named Sheldon. He's so fucking amazing at getting lost. It's just like, I can never find him. The whole backyard to himself. And like, sometimes I'll just be like, he's gone forever. I've looked at every single corner of every little rock. He's gone. I don't know where he is. He got taken by an eagle. And then he'll show up like 5 days later. I've had him for like 5 years. So anyway, but now I turn on my telepathic sensory to try to find Sheldon. So I have to like go ground myself, sit on the ground in the grass, and I have to just be in silence. I have to feel, and I have to try to search for his energy. And if I sit long enough and I just try to like sense out his like little brainwave, I can find him every time now.
Oh, wow.
That's how I find him.
So my first ever pet was a tortoise. I had 2 of them.
Oh yeah, I had a box turtle when I was little, and then this is my first tortoise. He's a Greek tortoise, so he's a little land tortoise. He's gonna be 200 years old. He's already like 35.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow.
I love them.
Can I tell you about this guy called William Bankston, because it's along very similar lines actually. He has got this. It's a CD, so it's well out of date, I suppose, in that sense, called Hands-on Healing, a training course in the energy cure. And he is absolutely convinced, done lots of actual control experiments in the lab and stuff, that he can cure mice and people and anything in between of cancer, and he basically holds them, or he puts his hands on their cage, and he, like you're saying, he's formed a way of forming rapidly replacing pictures of all the good things, just like all the kind of good, healing, healthy, you know what I mean? Like when people say go to your happy place, he's like got that, but he's got like 100 of them or 1,000 of them, and he's rapidly cycling through them and basically transmitting his energy into the cage, or the person he's laying hands on or whatever. And he's thoroughly convinced that he can not only cure tumors, when they're covered in mice, sometimes they actually breed them to develop tumors and stuff. Not only can he cure the tumors rapidly, and they kind of shrink and fall off and go black and disappear and things like that, but that the animal never gets cancer back again, and you can't give it cancer after that. Even though they've got lots of laboratory techniques where they can induce cancer.
Well, that's cool. I'll have to look into him, because I've done a bunch of
William Langston is his name. If you look him up on YouTube, you'll find some videos of him talking, and whether you believe it or not, it's fascinating. Very good delivery, entertaining delivery.
There are a number of recorded cases of cancer patients actually healing themselves with positive energy. I know there was one that I was reading about specifically, and it was this lady, and she'd been given a diagnosis of 3 months to live. So she went and locked herself basically in a room with no interference from anybody else, and just sat there meditating, thinking positive thoughts, thinking, there is no cancer, it's gone. And she actually cured herself, and that was a real live case of somebody actually curing herself of cancer, just literally by wishing the cancer to have disappeared and thinking positive thoughts. So I suppose there is a lot in it.
So I believe that 100%. So so I've done I don't know how many different courses on healing stuff or whatever, energy healing, but the takeaway, what I do for my own self when I feel like I'm coming down with something, or even I thought I sliced off my thumb a couple of years ago, and I didn't look at it. I just covered it up and I held it, and then I ran into my room and I shut it. I needed to be alone, and I couldn't. It's almost like this Schrodinger's cat, right? I couldn't have seen it, because then I would have not been able to believe. I knew what happened, but I couldn't see it, because if I saw the blood gushing and all this other stuff, it wouldn't have worked. So before I actually saw the wound, I just held on to it, went in there, and I do this thing where I'll sit down, straight posture. You create a toroidal field, your actual chakra line or your spinal cord is basically a ladder that goes from the center of the cosmos to the center of the planet, right? And you're creating a toroidal field all around you. And then I imagine every single cell in my body is a sun. It's its own sun. And I'm basically just igniting my universe. So the entire everything in me is optimal. It's healthy. It's I give it myself the Odin healing light waves coming in, and I just circle it all around my entire body. And and anyway, you do that enough, and you do it until you are convinced that you're just your optimal health. And then I took my hand away and my thumb was fine. So
was it cut?
I think I cut it off. That's how bad I thought I cut it. And then, but it didn't even give it time to I just pinched it, and it hadn't even started bleeding yet, because it was, it just happened, and I was nope. Okay, let's do this. And then
that's so interesting. Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't cut at all. Maybe it was just psychological, but
no, but the thing is that it in order for your immune system to rush in and and start doing all the healing things, and the swelling and the bleeding and the clotting and all those kind of things, that signal has to be sent probably partly from your eyes. If you think about people with oh god, what's the illness where you lose all sensation in your limbs, and they used to send them off to an island? What is that?
Leprosy. I don't know.
Leprosy.
Yeah.
Leprosy. Right, me and words not doing well lately. Yeah, so I mean, there is a sort of sense in which, in order for your body to kick in and have that response, maybe you need some kind of signal from the brain to send the troops down that way. You know what I mean? And if in your case the signal wasn't sent and it was sort of reversed, maybe there was a bit of a cut there, but it wasn't like inflamed or gash.
I feel like it's very similar with like nocebo effects or
yeah.
You just have to kind of really like diagnosing people, I think, can be really dangerously negative.
Yeah, I mean, we know for a fact that advanced mind control in fear can make people feel as though that you keep people in fear and they literally will do anything that you want them to do and they become ill. But if you do the opposite, then we have a happy society and people are physically fit and able and everything. So advanced mind control, it is something that governments used during the pandemic. They admitted that they used that to keep people an element of fear. So. What did everybody do? They all cowered and they all felt sick and they all got ill and etc. And like one of these things that I watched was a TED talk, and it was really fascinating for me because it was, the mind actually projects, the brain projects what you actually see in your eyes before your eyes see it. So as you say, with energy healing, if you don't see the actual cut or you don't see the problem, and that problem doesn't exist to you within your mind, then your eyes aren't going to see it. And then if that's the case, then it doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Well, I mean, can I just push back on this a bit? Because I've got rheumatoid arthritis and various other autoimmune conditions. So my health's not great. It hasn't been since I was a kid. So I don't want to give the impression that we're saying, oh, you can just cure yourself. And if you haven't cured yourself, it's your own fault, because I think that's really toxic as well.
Yeah, but there is your body does repair itself. Your DNA can
repair itself. It does. But at the same time, though, you can be overwhelmed by disease. Yeah. Like there can be a point where there's so much inflammation, there's so much damage, or there's cancer cells or whatever, that you're overwhelmed, and your ability to think it away is overwhelmed. So I'm not, you know what I mean?
I mean, my dad currently has cancer right now, and like he would, like he's not, like he has multiple myeloma, and I just don't think that, like there's no amount of energy healing I could do to him. I don't think that would turn that around at this point. I think it's like, but I mean, I also kind of
doesn't stop us from trying, though.
Yeah, but it's different levels of where a person's at in their health journey or whatever, like, I don't know.
But it is proven, though, a positive mindset is for a healthier life kind of thing in that respect. And don't get me wrong, I know, and this is where we go back to the mushrooms and the plant medicine and everything is, but if, certain aspects of needing something to actually pull you out of a dark place, if you are we can talk about depression because we know for a fact that mushrooms, scientifically, psilocybin has been proven. So just to have something that's just that extra kick, just to get you out of that kind of depressive, negative mindset, to put you in a different, more positive mindset, it can help mentally. Definitely, that's one of the things that it can definitely do. And then I wanted to make a point of we were talking about kind of communication, and an African tribe that communicate by clicks, which is exactly what bats, they communicate by echolocation and clicks, and like blind people can communicate by clicks. But also going back to like books, the Library of Alexandria being burnt down, and then talking about the fact that, well, one thing we can do to combat that in this modern age is to actually put information on blockchain, and specifically BSV, which will kind of it scales. So one of the ways that our modern age now, that we could actually protect against them changing or deleting information is to put it on blockchain, because every iteration of that would be on blockchain. So they burnt the Library of Alexandria down. So maybe the blueprints for the building of the pyramids were somewhere within the Library of Alexandria. We won't know because they burnt that all down. But at least with sort of the modern technology of blockchain, we could put those blueprints on blockchain, and
okay,
it won't get
devil's advocate with that, but couldn't that at some point be physically destroyed?
Definitely, yeah. It would just be harder because it's stored in multiple locations.
Okay.
Yeah, so talking about, say, like the digital age of the internet as it is at the moment, Wikipedia is a perfect example. It could get edited 71 times in a day. Yeah, and the information is completely altered. Say like the definition of vaccine case, but with blockchain, you've got the original iteration of it. And yeah, if there is going back to the younger Dryas, if there is a cataclysm, then obviously that's going to cause an issue. But if the satellites are still up in orbiting, and blockchain is run through satellite, maybe run via a satellite, then the mining nodes or something run via satellite. Am I on the right track here, Ruth? Then
I mean, that scares me about, our sun has been really active lately since 2023. I don't know if you've seen, but we've had like 3 X-class solar flares. We had we've already had multiple solar flares today. I think there's been something over 60 solar flares in the last 12 days, which is insane.
It is weird, yeah, and I think it's messing with people's internet as well. I tend to find that my internet goes a bit wonky when we get a solar flare.
Well, they grounded every flight yesterday in the U.S.
In the U.S. Was that purely because of communication?
Well, they're saying it's because of the computer thing, but I think it's pretty interesting that it would have been exactly when the X flare would have been hitting the country. So, I mean, it's kind of weird.
So really, our ancient ancestors were right with marking rock and painting on stone and geoglyphs, because that is the only thing actually.
Yeah, that's the hardest copy you can get, really. My camera gone a bit.
Tell me about nubs. I'm interested in nubs because I see lots of pictures of nubs.
Okay, so nubs are I wish I could pull up a picture for you right now, but okay, so there are these protrusions that are on stones, and they are okay, so here's a little interesting. If I send you a little, I just went through, I made a little field guide on what to look for when you're going to ancient sites last night. So I made like a little pamphlet. If I sent that to you, could you pull it up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
It does fascinate me about this as well, because I think, is it, what's the guy in Liverpool you talked to?
Ziggy Dan.
Ziggy, yeah. He does like a daily nub or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
And there was, I think you did a live stream with Ziggy and somebody else, and you were talking about nubs then. And ever since you talked about, I'd never noticed them before. But then you look at all these ancient sites, and it's like, actually, there's a nub on there. There's a nub on there. I've never noticed these before, and now they're everywhere.
What on earth is a nub? You're gonna have to share it, Diddy, because
I have to show you, because it's hard to explain with it. I'm about to send it to the women of BSV. Okay, so a nub is a protrusion that sticks out from a megalithic stone, and it's like, sometimes they're squares, sometimes they're circles, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small, sometimes they're on columns, sometimes they're on stadiums, sometimes they're on the bedrock, sometimes they're on massive. So they're this weird anomalous feature that is what I would call a hallmark that can be found across the world. Like, it's in Peru, it's in Egypt, it's like on the Menkaure pyramids, it's all over Ollantaytambo. Like, you have them in Machu Picchu, you have them in Sacsayhuaman, like you have them all over, like you have them in Greece, you have them in Rome, you have them all over the world. In fact, we've been right now, me and Andrew Fink and this other girl, Katie Weiss, are creating a database where we've got about 400 or so ancient sites, and then we're marking, we've defined out what the hallmarks, meaning, like, okay, right now when you build, you're gonna have okay, so these are right now, these are like the hallmarks. Like we got megalithic stones, which are basically too big to be moved easily. Okay. I haven't, might not be spelled correctly and everything, because I've just been working on this last night. Polygonal, meaning that it's, when I say a polygonal stone, it means it's placed in like a precise puzzle that you can't, like, it's just crazy that it isn't going to go. Precise, mortarless, none of them have any mortar in them. They just are the weight of the thing, and the key in way they were shaped is what keeps them together and has size properties that they don't get affected by earthquakes over a long time. Okay, beveled blocks. These are found all over the world, you guys. Like, so forget about time. Forget about whether this was built 5,000 years ago and this was built 1,000 years ago, because we cannot date stone. You know, there's no way to date it. The stone's been around for all the time. So yeah, that's a nub. The second one there. Beveled blocking is like they have an indention border. That's all over the world too. That's
hang on. Which one's a nub? Oh, there's
you see how there's little protrusions on the rock?
Do you know what they remind me of? Like, have you ever been rock climbing?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so you know the indoor rock climbing? Yeah, completely. That's what they remind me of. They remind me of literally hand and feet for climbing. That's what like instantly, that's what I thought. I was like, oh,
all over. Now you're going to see them everywhere. You're going to see them in India. You're going to see like that. It's so like this was the thing that, like, the nubs was the thing that got me into going like, wait, what are we doing? All of history is a lie. Like all of this was like, because what this signifies. Okay, yeah. So you got pinch holes. I'll go through them. Okay, yeah, we got pinch holes, which like you could stick something through it. You know, those are all over. Some of them are square, some of them are round, some of them are corner pinch holes, some of them are in the middle of rocks. Like they're high, they're low, they make no sense. You have scrape marks, which is like, it's like, oh, these are like tooling indications.
Yeah,
like the ice cream scoop.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to be no advanced technology.
Yeah, this is all, by the way, Stone Age
copper and copper chisels or something. It's like in granite to be able to get a perfect circle through a granite rock.
And yeah, exactly. And then like the precision, like, okay, we have drill holes like in Egypt. We have drill holes all over everywhere. Like this looks like, I mean, these drill holes are so, they look used to drill.
Machined.
Yeah. I saw a picture of a top of a pyramid somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but it was a block pyramid. And those, you see the one that you're just going to go off, you've just gone off screen with it, bring it down a little bit. So that here, this particular one, clamp marks, is like they had metal clamps to keep the stones glued, clamped together.
What's very interesting about that is all the metal's basically gone now.
Eroded. Yeah.
And so therefore it's not even structural to hold the stones together, because they maybe need that to fasten the stones, but they're all still together. So
that's also where it makes me think, well, did they do kind of a concrete effect where actually it was a mold?
Yeah. I mean, the geopolymer is like, a lot of people talk about the geopolymer, which is like some kind of concrete mixing of pouring the stones. And even still, I think we're still missing equipment. We're still missing weight. There's still sheer size, and like some stuff is actually drilled into. You can see like where they've taken away stone. There's so, I mean, like, I think I have 50 indicators on here. And these will everything I have on here is found across the world. It's not found in one place. I found like holes in Chaco Canyon, in New Mexico.
This is interesting as well, because they at one point it was like, it was only the pyramids in Egypt, but actually there are pyramids all over the world. There are pyramids in Australia, there are pyramids in Europe, there are pyramids in China, South America. Yeah, exactly.
All over Mesoamerica. Filler stones are these really little pointless, they're probably not pointless, but my brother says I need to reword that because they're not pointless. But they're little, just keystone, like that right there is like as big as your thumb. It's very tiny, but it's almost like they just do it to show you how impressive they can be.
They're like really perfectionist.
Like did that chip off at some point, and then they thought they had to fill it in with an extra piece of rock, because it got.
How the bloody hell would it chip off after it was in?
Well, but how did they build them in the first place?
Why did they put it in. I mean, like, there's so many questions with all these different, I mean, there's so many holes in general are super interesting in these rocks. They're very strategically placed. Like sometimes, like the damage holes are interesting, and like are where it almost looks like after it was built, somebody went in and was taking some sort of property out of like the seams or something. That's very common all over the world. You have
there's like a lot of temples as well. I mean, I know in Ethiopia there's a church that was
that's
literally dug out
Yeah.
of one solid piece of rock, and there's plenty of those all over the place.
And there's nubs on that, by the way.
Is it seriously on the church in Ethiopia? Wow, because that's in the shape of a cross as well, and they dug down.
And they dug it and they left some nubs. And you're going like, what is this? Do they have piezoelectric fix? Do they have other things? You know, like a lot of the conventional mainstream will tell you that they're for lifting. But yeah, I mean,
it doesn't make sense. The modern day theories for stuff, when you actually see the construction and the architecture, it just doesn't make sense.
Here's what is the main thing that I want everybody to take away. It doesn't matter what the function of why these things were built, with it, like okay, the kachina, like, or the chonka, like the stair set motif, like that's found in Saudi Arabia, that's found all over Mesoamerica, that's in Peru. That one right there is from Tiwanaku. So is the incised motif where they go in with these things. Like what I'm showing is that, you know, we have cartwrights in Texas, we have cartwrights in the Azores, that one's from Malta. Like there are things that are cross-cultural, across the world, that are just like today. Okay, we have Japan or Texas, or we have England. Okay, fine. But we're going to have screws. We're going to have nails. We're probably all going to use wood and concrete and steel in our buildings. All right. We have signatures in our globalized world that are built uniformity. And something was going on that had like there are features found all over the world in these same sites that mean that we were in communication, at least in the terms of like, oh yeah, you had nubs on everything. We all had like these certain, like dolmens are found Ireland, that one's in Russia, that's in Sochi, Russia. Like they're found like all over the place. Like, I mean, I go,
and like you say, the main thing is you can't carbon date any of this stuff, really.
Date stone, because think about the stone itself has been around since, you know, like the earth, right? And then you don't have a way to know when it was manipulated. Like they have this uranium surface dating which they never hardly ever do. But even if they do, it's like off by a factor of like 200,000 years, which helps us.
Which is a huge amount of time. I mean, I remember I can't remember what it was actually, but it was another thing that I saw. But we're missing 1.2 million years worth of the Earth's history anyway, because of glacial damage, which has just literally been churned up by glaciers. So we don't know. There's a whole section of like 1.2 million years worth of the Earth's history missing.
My oversized lentil picture is missing. I have to fix that. Okay. Like I said, this is just a very, you're right. Yes, you are right on the glacial.
Should it be lentils, not lentils?
Yes. I haven't edited this.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry.
I know size lentils would be very good, actually, especially if you're cooking.
Size lentils. Yeah. Okay. That one was bad. There's other, these like pitted other designs. Oh, my what the fuck boulders. Those are my favorite. There's so many different. Like,
what's a trainer stone? What's a trainer stone?
It looks like it makes no sense. These stones they're all over Peru, Japan. They're in Greece. They're in Italy. They're like everywhere. Like they'll just have like weird, like notches taken out, and like they'll have nubs, they'll have insides, they'll have all these little features on them, but they'll have no rhyme or reason to them. Like they're in India. I found some when I was in Mahabharata, India. I don't know what they are. It's like we call them trainer stones because we think maybe they were trying like.
Right, I see. So yeah, I've got okay. So, and what about because I know you had Hugh Newman on your show, and so he's got a lot of information about the giants of Britain and Stonehenge and stuff. So like he's a fascinating person as well, I think, because he's done a lot of research into this, and I think he's quite he's very, I mean, I've got his book, The Giants of Stonehenge. I haven't got around to reading it.
I think he's one to definitely take serious, and along with Jim Vieira, who he writes his books with, and they talk about giants. And I mean, there's just, it's one of those things where there's so much account of them that it's hard to be
well, I mean, even so, we go back to photos from the 1800s. There are photos of plenty of people who were 9 foot tall. There are plenty of photos, 7, 8, 9 foot tall. We've got basketball players nowadays that are still 7 foot tall, who to me at 5'2" is a giant, you know. So you kind of, you know, I mean, in Britain, there are graves that were marked of 10 foot tall people, you know, and these are graves that can be seen, and Hughes actually pinpointed them all out in his book as well, where you can actually go and visit these particular dolmens and graves and everything that were pinpointing the giants, where they fell or where they were buried and stuff. And like Japan has got a lot of history of giants, but like I say, from the 1800s, you can still find photos. There are plenty of them, you know, online that can be seen.
I mean,
so
there's also a lot of like skeletal evidence that gets kind of, like,
I mean, you know, the Bible itself is a great book, but it's also, there's a lot of fact in that has been unearthed archaeologically, that's been found, that actually, you know, ties in with what a lot of the Bible was saying. And when we talk about the Nephilim and the Anunnaki and the Anu and all of this, who were supposedly giants and things. So again, this is something we were talking about in our philosophy classes that I mentioned about. I think that people were physically fitter, you know, 2,000 years ago, definitely, and a lot stronger. So how do we know? You know, I mean, is it the Easter Island, the statues on Easter Island? So they did a couple of experiments with how to move them with just people and rope. Yeah, they got them walking. So if you can do that experiment, and you can see that with a few people and the rope in the right place and the right angles and everything, and you can walk the actual statues themselves into place. And I think there was one guy as well, he's on the internet, and he's got like a 20-ton stone, and he shows how to move it himself. Yeah, he moved a 20-ton stone. So if they were a lot physically fitter and a lot stronger, and these things were possible, again, the multiple,
I mean,
it doesn't make sense.
That really makes me think we have lost technology, that it's not just ropes and pulleys and like dudes doing all that stuff, though, is the ease or the amount of it that exists today, where you're going like, well, what did they, you know, and like when I went back to even like the columns or this kind of thing, you know, this is all supposedly done by hand and chisel, y'all. And you're talking about, like, even if you look at those, like the winged bull statues, you're talking about like the amount of detail on this stuff. And it's like it would require a drill. It would like require some sort of like, if you're chiseling this with a bronze, a hammer and a bronze chisel, like I just like sometimes I'm going like, we're missing even in the fluting of columns, or the fact that like let's take a Corinthian column head that's all like super elaborate and ornate and all that. Like these things are almost identical to each other. They're all over, and the electric drill wasn't even invented until 1917. So what were they doing before then? And like, how were they physically doing this? Even when we had steel, okay, cool, we had steel, but like, how are you getting the uniformity within like, it was our artistry and our artisans, were they really that good? Like I mean, like when you're talking about, when I say fluting, it's like the column has the little indications that go do around it. We had rotaries, like we had a thing where you could rotate it and like, you know, like kind of how you make wooden legs and wood features like that. Yeah, but if fluting, you can't, I mean, you can't do that on a rotary thing. So like, what are we talking about? Like how is some of this stuff done? We just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Pyramid of Egypt has got like 2.3 million stone blocks.
They're all all like, they all weigh like 200,000 pounds.
Yeah, like was it like 15 tons or something? Is that what that? Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, they're different sizes, but like some are as big as. I mean, yeah, it's
mind blowing. It is mind blowing, isn't it? And it's like, I mean, it's the same with I know because I saw this somewhere as well. I can't remember where it was, but it was scientists have found that our DNA drastically changed 200,000 years ago. And I know we started eating mammoths, like woolly mammoths, 200,000 years ago, but there was also like, there were several massive changes like 200,000 years ago. So what the hell happened 200,000 years ago? Because this is
even before. I don't know. And like the thing with the dating of the human and all that stuff. And I have just gotten like, okay, so C14, carbon 14 dating is, I don't know. When I was in geology, we like our professor like made us, basically he tested the bones of a seal that had died on the beach, like, obviously within the year. And it came back and it showed us that it was between 1 to 200,000 years old. So like the margin of error was like 200,000 years. And he's like, what? And he wanted to showcase for us is that doesn't help us in our lifetime. Where that does is like, if you find a fossil, it helps you to know whether this was from like, the Precambrian age or the Jurassic age or what. Like he said that what it helps is like, okay, 200,000 in terms of, if you're talking about millions of years, it helps you there, but it doesn't help you in anything within our lifetime.
No.
Which is bizarre, because then that's all you hear of them using all the time. So I'm kind of going like,
and how did they stay on the beach for 200,000 years without being disturbed? It's like that. It's like, well, how have they been there that long? Well, they may not have been. They've been washed up or something. But for a bone to actually last that long is, again, mind blowing. And I think you mean the I can't say the Parthian in like, I think they're like 34 feet or something. So when you think, like you say, you think about how tall they are and how many there are.
Yeah.
It's just
but
and our ocean, going back to the ocean, like we haven't actually discovered most of what's in our own ocean. And space is like a pinprick. We only know what's a pinprick of what's in space at the moment. It's like what we can actually see. So,
Having said all that, though, like, don't you think that the churches and cathedrals and stuff are a real testament to human ingenuity and patience? I mean, the stuff that was built within the last sort of 1,000 years is also incredible.
That's also very impressive. Like but I want to know, like, how did they build? Like, how did they get those gargoyles? How did they get those spheres? How did they get? I mean, like I want to know more details even about that. Like, I just feel like we've lost so much.
A lot of church architecture, cathedral architecture as well, comes back to sound frequencies with the somatics, where you like put sound on a plate and then you vibrate that, and then it basically forms geometry. So like geometry is sound frozen in time. And a lot of, you look at the churches, you look at the shapes of them and the windows and everything, they're all based around sacred geometry. So again, that's a kind of real they obviously, they had this real innate knowledge of frequencies that we just don't appreciate in any shape, sense, or form today.
Now we just build cinder block things. I'm like, it's big old simple block kind of thing. I think I think a big takeaway though for me is that we were in communication, and we did have more intelligence than I think that we're letting on. So this whole story that we're the smartest we've ever been, and like we were basically like cavemen, and then we were rocking around, and then like slowly till where we are now. I mean, it's not really, I don't think, very accurate.
No. Now, do you know the story about, is a Vishnu, because it was Vishnu the blue god, and so have you ever read the Mahabharata and the scriptures there where they're talking about the battle in the sky, and that's supposed to... So the Vimanas were like flying machines, which there are schematic diagrams for, with within the Indian religious text, but also there was supposed to be a battle in the sky, which was actually a nuclear explosion. And there's a place in Pakistan, I think it's Pakistan,
Yes,
where the ground itself is radioactive. Now that again is like, if they're
I saw stuff about that like 10 years ago, and I haven't seen anything else about it since. And I always have that in the back of my head too, because that's another element of where I actually think like, well, maybe we have gone through world wars before that destroyed everything. Maybe like we are our own enemy. Like maybe the reason there isn't anything is because we obliterated it.
Everything. Yeah,
I can believe it.
Yeah, you see, this is where I love this saying. I've said it so many times, and I know actually Graham pinched it from somebody else. But this species with amnesia, and it makes so much sense. You know, if we have gone through nuclear wars, and life is circular, you know, circular kind of weird cycles. And every 200,000 years, isn't that when they're supposed to be like the Earth tilts and it shifts, so the angle shifts. And when you think about, okay, well, we talk about climate change, well, obviously that makes a lot of sense to me. If the tilting of the Earth, you know, shifts however many thousands of years.
But my one point, I'm going to show you this thing real quick on my thing. Like I see this on this is why I don't believe in Kali Yugas. Okay, because it's like we think that this is going on. Right? We think that we're in this fixed point and this is our universe, this is our solar system. But really what's happening is because that's kind of like your point.
Yeah. It's shooting through.
Yeah, we're
spiraling.
You know, we're going around a Milky Way that's going around a Milky Way that's going around something that's going around something that's going around something.
And how fast are we traveling as well per second? I mean,
but we don't have a point of reference to know how fast we're traveling into I don't know.
Where is the point we've come from? Where is the point we're going to? And how is the Milky Way and everything still in the same place when we're traveling so fast in this forward motion of direction, but everything is spinning?
And like the conventional thing will say like, oh, it's because it's so big that it isn't actually constantly in motion. We really don't have records that long. There's that too. I mean, I don't know.
I personally am of the view that we're all on these filaments. So it's an electric universe and it's like a big circuit board essentially. And you know, the North Star stays in the same place, right? And we're kind of spinning around it. And I think probably that's because we're on the same filament as the North Star. So in essence, things are connected by kind of invisible strands of hydrogen plasma throughout, you know, the universe. So it's, you know, it's all connected and pulling on each other and so on, and you know, electricity is being distributed throughout the universe on these cosmic strings, really.
Well, I mean, physics is being proven wrong all the time anyway with Hadron Collider, because a couple of years ago they clashed two neutrinos together, which proved that things can travel faster than the speed of light. Right. You know, so all of science has to change in that respect, because we're finding that actually we only got to a certain
point. Much of what we discover is contradictory of these, you know.
Well, I mean, back when we talk about like the woolly mammoths or like megafauna, like even 10,000 years ago, if you want to talk about a bunch of giant bones that have been found, which there have been, it's like, well, like okay, yeah, we have 7-8 foot tall guys that exist today, but I mean, but in what percentage wise, like how we find this much percentage of them? There weren't, like you said, there was like 1 million people alive back then. How are you finding that percentage of them that are that big, right? Versus today, you know, you're kind of like,
and again, like, I mean, how do we know it's 170 million? Because the Romans certainly didn't at that point in time have anything to do with the Mesoamericans.
Yeah,
you know, and Amazon, you know, in the Amazon jungle, or say like, you know, like what they didn't know what was going on in China, but I mean, obviously, but there are certain people within the Earth's that they certainly didn't have communication with. So how do we actually know? Because isn't it recently LiDAR scans of the Amazon have shown there are megalithic structures that are literally under what the Amazon jungle was before it was,
I mean, like, well, the Amazon's crazy. I mean, you got Terra Preta, which I had on there, which is like Terra Preta is engineered soil, which there's even some suggestion that the Amazon forest in itself, the entire Amazon forest was planted. Like it's on engineered soil, which that's a whole other rabbit hole of crazy awesome to get into.
Well, no, completely. I mean, there's a little Chinese lady who's literally terraformed a massive section of the Chinese desert on her own. Like she just, so if humans can re-terraform the desert, which we can do, and she's doing it now in Africa as well, and they're trying in Kuwait, they're trying to plant more trees because it will cool Kuwait down. It's one of the hottest places on the planet at the moment. What's to say that we didn't do that in the past?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I do wonder. But what I was going to get to about the physics of the Earth earlier was that when you had like these you had these bigger things at one point, and not even that long ago, like 10,000 years ago, you had a lot of everything was bigger than we are now.
Yeah,
like maybe the physics was different. Maybe like we didn't have as much gravity or as much pressure on maybe that allowed
That's what I think the Earth is smaller.
Well, and also the moon was a lot closer. I mean, it might not make a lot of difference. It might make a lot of difference, but it travels at 1.5. Is it 1.5 inches?
Time worked differently at that point. Like we could have had time could have moved in a different way to where it allowed things to get that big, or we could have been dealing with a different set of physics somehow. We could have been dealing with different air. Like we could have been. Like maybe there was way more oxygen, way more carbon, way more I don't know what was going on, but the conditions of our planet and the physics of our planet, obviously, I don't think is stationary. I don't think it's the same.
No, definitely not. Hey, look, can I call time here? Because we've been going for an hour and 40, and I think we should definitely invite you back. Is there anything that you want to ask us about Bitcoin, or anything that you've ever just wondered why, or what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, I like, sorry I didn't get to that earlier, and I know this is a big
no, it's okay. It's just far too interesting. Yeah,
I kind of was really wanting to know like what you guys thought of like what's the little,
what are the issues, like why
it's falling apart right now, like like the little party boat guy, what is that, NFTP or whatever? I don't know what his name was.
Oh yeah, FTX is it? No, what's his name?
Yeah. You think that was like an
Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yeah. For me, my interpretation was like, I think that's like almost like the controllers trying to
discredit it,
the market of.
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was a plant to bring the market down, to cause some real chaos, make a lot of people lose a lot of money, and then they swoop in with the CBDCs, and this is all regulated and it's much safer, and you can trust us with the government. All that. I mean, the point that I would make to you and your audience who might not know much about Bitcoin is that they're not all created equal. They're not all even all the same thing at all. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin SV is about storing data and being cash. So in order to be cash, it has to have extremely low fees. So all this, with Ethereum things, the fees got to the point where, you couldn't transmit small amounts of money anymore because the fees would outweigh the amount that you wanted to ridiculous nonsense, basically. The crypto market's been turned into a joke, really. And the thing about Bitcoin SV is it's just a tool. It's just a really great tool for, time stamping data, storing data, manipulating data, serving data, and essentially behaving as cash so that it's functionally private. It's pseudonymous. So basically, for the way that we use cash is that nobody really knows where you spent it, or, and so it's a way of having cash, but digitally.
But it's not just about cash, though. It's an entire system. So,
but it is like another internet, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I see it's definitely a triple ledger accounting system. So that's one thing. It's microtransactions, which allows for I could send you 1 cent from the UK over to Dallas, and literally it would cost me nothing. You would literally you would receive
Yeah.
1 cent and you would receive it in a second, and it's got utility to it. And BSV, Bitcoin SV, Satoshi's vision is a commodity, whereas the rest of the market is crypto. So there's a difference between
the rest of the market's a security, so it's sort of promising you future gains, but it's tied to nothing. Like it's not like shares in a company would be, oh, you own so much of that company,
or gold or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's the expectation of future gain, but without actually being tied to anything. Whereas because Bitcoin SV is a commodity, basically it has an intrinsic value of its own and behaves as cash.
When do you see it being used as cash? Like when do you see like the exchanges?
Well, I was just going to chip in because I trip
cash all the time.
Yeah, well, I triple. So basically, the internet as it's built at the moment, okay, if you can't, it wasn't built with the idea of being able to transact cash. So this is where third parties have come in, and you've got
there's no secure layer.
Everything. So literally, if you build the internet on Bitcoin SV, which you can do, which is what the IEEE is all about, and IPv6. So IPv4 is literally, it's the amount of addresses that you can have. So there's 9 zeros.
Stands for Internet Protocol.
Yeah, so there's the amount of IP addresses that you can have. So we're on IPv4 at the moment, and that's got 9 zeros. But IPv6 has got 38 zeros. So it that's as many grains of sand in the world as IP addresses as many grains of sand. So you can imagine what you can do. So you can put your Internet of Things on top of Bitcoin, which works with nano payments and microtransactions. So your smart fridge can make a transaction on Bitcoin and communicate with the internet and other smart machines on IPv6. And then what it also enables is, because it can sit on top of Bitcoin, the cash transactions are then able to happen instantaneously, and it can just literally keep running itself and going, and all these smart machines can talk to each other, and I can make that 1 penny transaction from you in the UK, and you get my 1 penny. You still get the 1 penny.
The fridge thing isn't that interesting use. The really important takeaway from it is that it will serve all the people on the planet.
It can, at the moment, Bitcoin, you could put all of world trade on Bitcoin 50 times over. That's at the present. That's everything, all of world trade.
It's taking so long to take off, like in terms of like in the public,
because it's massively suppressed. It's
that's where you've got the people like FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried and the Ponzi schemes, where they've promised you this massive return on investment for nothing. There's no utility. It doesn't do anything. The only thing what they've done, say with Ethereum, is like you say about the fees and everything. They're making money from basically you buy some Ethereum, you buy a piece of NFT art, it's on a server, it's not on chain, and then they've just whacked the fees up. The gas prices are so high that actually it's going to cost you 300 quid to send 300 quid.
It's basically a bit like the gold rush. They're selling the shovels.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the people who are looking for the gold think they're going to get rich, but it's really the shovel sellers that are getting rich. You know what I mean? So it just has no intrinsic kind of use for the world, and can't serve the world. Certainly, it's like Bitcoin's like 6-7 transactions per second.
Well, BTC, which is like literally, it's a Ponzi copy of the original protocol, and the original protocol is BSV Satoshi's vision. So the BTC, Craig he's the inventor of Bitcoin, and basically he likes to call BTC, it is an illegal copy of his invention, and it's been stolen by these people over
most
here.
People do buy BTC, right?
Yeah.
So So BTC is
worth $20,000 currently.
Yeah, but it does only do, say, 14 transactions per second.
Oh, I don't know whether it does that many even, did he? But yeah, it's like sub 20.
And at the moment, BSV can certainly do 100,000 transactions per second. BTC is stuck on, like, I think they got to, like, it was 1 megabyte blocks, and where BSV is on 4 gigabyte blocks. So it's a massive data storage. The data, for example, if you're on Facebook, you upload something to Facebook, it belongs to Facebook. It does not belong to you. But if you do the same with Bitcoin, with BSV, which is Bitcoin, and you upload your photo to the blockchain, the BSV blockchain, you still own that data, and you can sell that if you want to, and you can make the money for it. Whereas with Facebook, they're making money off your data. And so that's one of the wonderful things about it, is you get to actually, you keep your own data. It's your data, and you can do what you want with it.
And you keep your own personal sovereignty as well. That's really the issue with it. So with like Ethereum at the minute, that's an account-based crypto, and the problem with that is that means someone in a central authority can decide that you're, like, an enemy of the state or something, like the Canadian truckers, and switch you off at the wallet, at the account level, right?
That was a real scary moment for me. I was like, ooh.
Exactly. But the difference with BSV is that it's transaction-based model, not an account-based model. So the identity is firewalled from the transaction, meaning that I can have a wallet and I can use a different address every time I send money. And I'm sending it peer-to-peer. So when I send Diddy money, I'm sending it from my wallet to her wallet. Sorry?
That's a really cool feature.
Right. So that's why it's like cash, because if I was to give you cash, I would literally hand it to you. Right?
Yeah.
There'd be no one in between. And so I send money from my wallet to Diddy's wallet, and then it gets sent on to the miner to update the ledger afterwards. So this is a feature called SPV. So this is why it's personal sovereignty, because it means that no one can get in the middle of your transaction.
So how do you get BSV? Like, I mean, like I have Coinbase and I have some BTC and some Ethereum on that, but like I don't.
Bittrex is the best place at the minute for Americans, I think.
Who?
Bittrex.
Who? Bittrex. Okay. So so at the moment you can use exchanges to swap your crypto to BSV, but actually, if you just want to buy BSV, you don't need an exchange. You can just
you can like
a
wallet called wallet will let you buy with the credit card.
So handcash.io, you could kind of download handcash.io, and then you can just buy with a credit card, and then that puts money into your handcash wallet. Or debit card, and then you can send that peer-to-peer to people. And there's, in fact, with handcash.io, there are a lot of apps within Handcash that you can actually use. So if you like gaming, you can play the games, and you can win. And say, for example, I played a game on Handcash and I got on the leaderboard. Well, because I was on the leaderboard, anybody else who plays that game and they don't get, their score is below mine, I get all these little micro payments in my wallet. So I get pinged with all these little micro payments because it's a kind of a very small, like 0.0001 sat or something, 100 sats or something, but actually it's still got a value to it. And I'm getting something for not even playing the game because I was on the leaderboard. But there are other things. There's like advertising platforms on there. So you could, there's a thing called Tonic Power, which is like an advertising platform. So you could put
like Google Ads.
Yeah, which is through Handcash. So you could put an ad on and then somebody retweets that out for you. They click on that link and they can earn a couple of pennies from it. Or, I mean, I think that's how I don't use it.
Yeah, no, it goes up to like, well, whatever you want to set it as. It could be 20 cents per click. It's
so somebody in a third world country who's earning $2 a day could do it very easily through the BSV network by just retweeting or reclicking adverts for 20 cents a piece, and they've got a job, basically viable job, earning BSV, which then they can actually trade There are several other wallets. You can either get gift cards, and you can transfer your BSV into a gift card and go and spend that in Walmart or places like that.
That's when you can use it like real cash.
I mean, you can definitely use BSV as real cash. I mean, there are other say, like with hand cash, there are other applications as well. So for example, there's one called Twetch, and it's like Twitter, but again, it's micropayments. So I pay 2 cents to etch a tweet to the blockchain. But if somebody likes my tweet or they branch my tweet, then I can earn, I can earn 8 cents or I can earn 3 cents. And so if you kind of scale that up and you've got 100 people that like your tweet and you're getting 2 cents for every time somebody's liked it, and that's £2, isn't it? Whatever.
That's
$2.
I feel like Twitter is going to have to go to some system like that, otherwise,
it's funny though, because Elon keeps saying, "Oh, it's not technically possible." It's like, no, it is, Elon. It is.
But I'm sure
in the opposite direction.
I'm sure he said something on a Spaces a couple of weeks ago about he'd come across a model of Twitter that used micropayments, and I'm sure he was talking about Twitch, because literally it is the only version of Twitter that's like that. And so, for example, there's Lamint.io as well. They're mostly .ios,
which is like Instagram.
It's Instagram, but what you can do is people can send you tips, or you can lock a photo and you can put, okay, well, if you want to see this photo, I'm going to either charge you 5 cents, 10 cents, $2, $10, whatever. And they will send you, say it's 5 cents. I want to unlock this photo. I want to see what's behind this photo. And you can get paid instantly. So it's how to monetize your own data through social media, which is actually on the blockchain, which again is fascinating for me. There's a thing called My 2 Cent as well. So it's a bit like LinkedIn and Facebook. It's a combination of Facebook and Reddit and stuff. So that again, you can monetize your data instantly. So if you're an influencer, say, for example, let's take Jimmy, because he's got 1.3 million followers and at least 300,000 people who watch his videos all the time. If he used the Lamint model and he was using that instead of Instagram, and all his followers were on Instagram, his followers from Instagram, say he's got 1,500 likes on a video, on a photo, and he's charged, 5 cents for each photo, to unlock a photo. And I'd pay 5 cents to unlock a Jimmy photo. Why wouldn't I? I'm a fan, whatever. That's quite a bit of money, but that's instantly. So it's not on a subscription basis either. It's on a kind of
transaction basis.
Click. And you could do the same with video models. So for example, instead of say paying Netflix $40 a month, if you only want to watch one video, you just pay per video. But actually you could do it so it's seconds worth. So you could charge per second 0.0000, I don't know, a thousandth of a cent. So if I only watch 3 minutes, I only have to pay for those 3 minutes. I don't.
And you guys must feel this too. Like, I mean, I'm a super small creator in terms of like, I don't know. I only had like 1,500 until like about a month ago. Jimmy called me out, and then now I have 6,000. But even still, it's like pennies on the dollar. I mean, in terms of, I think I've made $100 on YouTube, and I've been a YouTuber 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, because the
I'm at a point where sometimes I'm going like, I mean, I do it because I love it. I do it because I like it. I like to learn, and it's really fun. But if there feels like a form of being taken advantage by the company.
Completely. It's a big conglomerate company. It's a big corporation. The barrier to actually monetization is massive on YouTube. You need 1,000 followers and 4,000 hours. Well, all of this is instant monetization. So this at the moment is Lamint. Okay, so is that your wallet?
But it's not a Lamint wallet, is it?
But okay. So go to a photo that you've earned a couple of dollars on. So this is instant though. So, instantly you're earning. I mean, Lamint is a great one as well, actually, because it is an Instagram model. So it's very easy to kind of just.
Are these your mid-journey art?
Yes, yeah. That's what I'm.
Every day, hundreds and hundreds.
To be fair, like 20 cents tip is about the best I'm getting at the minute. But
it's better than Instagram, which is nothing. Yeah. So for some, like I say, if you're a you've got a big following, even if you've got 5,000 people following you, and you have hundreds of photos, and each one of those is earning you 20 cents. That is a hell of a lot better than earning absolutely nothing from Instagram.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and this is just the very start. This is
kind of like Odyssey is like that, the video thing. Like,
it was. Oh no, Odyssey. Yeah, isn't it Library Coin though? Odyssey.
It has its own kind of crypto. I think that
I noticed on.
Oh my God.
I noticed on Rumble, because there was Rumbles. You used to get Rumbles. Well, Rumbles have now turned into likes, so I don't see how you can monetize Rumble.
So this is Twitch. This is Twitch. This is like Twitter.
So
they had a little Elon Musk guy up there. Is Elon on Twitch, or is it somebody just with a mock account?
No, but I'll tell you who is. Danny. Oh gosh, what's his name? The famous
Trejo.
Danny Trejo is on there. He's a famous actor. Machete. Machete Kills. He's on there.
This is a bit of guerrilla marketing. I think this is the Twitch boys, the people who made the platform. I think created an account for Elon. They're waiting for him to come and take. I think basically.
So are there just not that many people on Twitch right now?
There's about 60,000
or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's about 60,000 people on Twitch. The thing with Twitch is, if you go to market, because they do NFTs as well. So you're talking about the NFTs, right? So you've got your ETH NFTs. So these NFTs are on chain. Yeah, are they? Yeah, they're on chain. So go to the foxes. I've got 4 foxes. So you've got a marketplace where you can buy NFTs and you can swap NFTs and you can resell NFTs, etc., etc. But they're all on chain. That's the difference. They're on chain. They're not on a server that can just get switched off at any point in time. They're on chain. So, and you can see here, there's an iteration of how many people have actually bought that order history. So it was bought by somebody probably for $10, and then it's been resold and then resold and resold. Well, that secondary market is where you're actually earning a commission. So an artist commission. Whereas I don't know if they do that at all on Ethereum. So if I've got a piece of art and I want to sell that piece of art, I can put my artist commission on. So every time it's sold on a secondary market, I'm just getting that commission instantly into one of my BSV wallets.
Yeah.
Instant, without having a third party.
Non-fungible tokens, I always thought, though, were more in terms of like they were like a ticket for something, or like a token.
Well, you can do, like, you could actually have, Ruth has a ticketing company, which is a physical ticketing company, but she could turn those tickets into NFTs and have a virtual ticket market for just for example, Cosmic Summit. So George could have actually virtual tickets instead of paper tickets, which are just QR codes, which are on a blockchain base, which he can give out to his customers who have bought, to go and see the Cosmic Summit. Or you can have a physical item attached to, so it can be a receipt for a physical item. So there's some guys we know, and they've got a printing shop, a screen printing shop in Miami. So they sell the item as an NFT, but when somebody buys that NFT, that NFT is pegged to a physical item. So, so it's not just about kind of photos or, art, digital artwork. It can be pegged to actual physical products as well. So this is Navigator, and Navigator is a bit like
this is my favorite at the minute. It's built in AI and stable diffusion. He's going to bring in Midjourney soon. And
how do you mean he's going to bring in Midjourney? Explain. How do
Well,
you
like
mean?
this is Stable Diffusion, and he basically called it a version of it Mid-Journey, but it's not actually Mid-Journey. But he's going to bring in the real Mid-Journey, so you can just type in !Mid-Journey and then, a prompt, and it'll produce you an image in there, and you can speak to Chat GBT in here. It's basically like Twitter, but it's not flat. It's kind of threaded. It's a really kind of interesting concept. And the other thing you can do is record videos, and it will instantly break the video into clips and put all the subtitles in the clips as well.
So is that's a little bit like this Futurepedia summarized tech that Nikki was talking about earlier then?
Oh, yeah.
You put that into Navigator, so it summarizes the videos.
So, yeah, but it's super, super cool. I'd have to kind of find you an example of it. But it's see, these are all my sort of previous conversations down the left here. And he was asking, did he, that I get you on here the other day? So I was saying I'm going to try and get Craig on here.
I do a lot of video editing, so a lot of my time is currently taken up by video editing, and obviously, Nikki, you know how long it can take to edit a video, especially when they're a fairly long conversation.
I know. I'm looking at this for you, going like, man.
Me myself, I think I've mentioned this to you before. I love all of that ancient history, and it fascinates me, and I do like all of this as well, but a lot of it is like, it fries my brain. I'm not as technically minded as what Ruth is. Ruth is amazingly technically minded. She can code and everything as well, so sometimes it's like you need to talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old, Ruth, and explain to me what everything actually means and break down some of the terminology,
I'm trying to find anyway. That's let me stop sharing. But I mean, you get the idea. It's not just about money, and it's not just about number.
Yeah, I like how you said it's basically another internet.
It's another internet, But it's one with a secure layer built in, and
which will allow you to do peer-to-peer transactions with each other,
and allows you to keep all of your own property rights. So, like anything that you
and our other internet is slowly shrinking and getting closed in on us and being censored, and so
exactly.
Another thing I use a lot is Arc to Bitcoin. I don't know.
Arc to Bitcoin is brilliant. I use that a lot as well, and I use it on my phone. I don't actually.
And it's
ARK. So it's like an archive. So anything like I only use the phone version. I don't use the desktop version. But literally, if you see, I do a lot of saving articles that I really like that I want to keep hold of, and I can archive them on Arc to Bitcoin. Yeah. So, and then what it does is it kind of, it's a library. It's like your own library. So, like PDFs and everything, and you can either, you can write them to Bitcoin, or you can actually encrypt them to keep them in your own folder, so other people can't see it. So you can either make it public or keep it encrypted. And I love Arc to Bitcoin. One of the things I find is this psychological step of I literally deleted my Facebook with 6,000 people on it. Like it's gone. I deleted it. I had to make that move. Because it's this psychological step of actually, well, I want to use Bitcoin. I want to get little tuppences here and the pennies here, and actually I want I want to own my data. I don't want Mark Zuckerberg owning my data.
I gave up a Facebook. I don't know. I really stopped using it in 2012 because I got on it.
I've been on it. Horrible thing.
I haven't. I don't even know how to sign in anymore. So I haven't actually deleted it because it was too much work to delete it. So I couldn't.
At one point, you were not able to delete it. It was like you could
every picture and manually delete it like that.
Yeah, and then you could. I think what was it? You could sort of basically whatever it was. You could just you could always log back into it. But now there's a permanent delete feature, and that's quite new. So I have permanently deleted it. See, I mean, interesting you had that particular video of Jimmy's though, because that was a video where he actually says about the internet is being deleted. So
that's right. You could scroll beyond page 2 of Google results. They're all just replicated over and over. So they're just duplicate results in the first 2 pages. So if it says it's got like 3.5 million results, it's bullshit. It really doesn't. They've kind of proved it.
I know. I saw that on True Stream Media this summer, and I was just like super depressed about it because it's so true. And when you go,
It's,
so this is the thing. We really need Bitcoin to be able to not memory hole all the stuff that's happened.
In a sense, I mean, obviously, it's not going to stop you getting arrested if they don't like what you're saying, or but you are going to be.
But they can't remove it. I mean, that's the thing. Once it's written to the blockchain, no one can remove it.
Yeah. So this is arc.page. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So,
but I mean, the flip side of you paying to put things on the blockchain and not being able to remove it is that you're responsible for what you put on the blockchain. So it's also a trail of evidence, So, be careful what you put on the blockchain.
It'll also make you think about just
before you get triggered by somebody saying something and you want to go back at it, it's like it really does make you think about what it is that you're actually posting publicly, because it is going to, it's there. It's not, it's there for however long the blockchain is going to last, which is literally, it could outlast human beings for a very long time. Then
so we just bombarded you with a lot of information. I mean, what's the standout from that? What did you glean from all that? Us going.
I mean, like, I have talked to Dee about the difference between Bitcoin and BTC and BSV before, and I watched some of Craig's videos, and so I'm not 100%.
That's amazing. Did you?
Yeah, I just I mean, for me, I just, it's like you have this infrastructure and it's built and it's ready to go. I don't know how you get people to go to it, to actually start using it. Like,
I think they'll introduce CBDCs and everyone will go, oh, hell, that's not good, because it's going to be really restrictive and centrally controlled and like worse basically than having cash. And I think at that point, people are going to go, okay, is there an alternative? There's got to be something that's better than this.
So you think when they start doing these digital...
Yeah, I think that'll be the moment when people realize actually something is afoot. But I say that, and I've been kind of waiting for people to realize that COVID something was afoot for 3 years, and here we are.
I mean, I've kind of stopped underestimating how dumb people are too. Like it's almost. I mean, I don't mean any harm.
No, I know. I agree.
Wow,
it's like spectacular, really. But I mean, so there's a lot of facets to it, but essentially, as far as I'm concerned, the switch to digital currency is kind of inevitable, a bit like AI is inevitable. But what we really need to do is to protect human sovereignty with a good version of it, such as Bitcoin SV. I mean, in the ideal scenario is that they build the currencies on top of Bitcoin SV, and then it has all the great properties. But the world being as it is, I doubt that's what's going to happen.
The way it feels right now is it feels like it's just being kind of toted around as like a stock, it's not really being used as much as it is.
Right.
That is where I say about it's the misinformation. It is this layer of people that people trust that are actually the misinformants. Yeah. And they're doing their utmost to be able to sabotage
the whole Bitcoin SV space. Like they spend so much effort and time trying to discredit all the people in the Bitcoin SV space. I mean, I said this the other week, but I just set up some merch, Satoshi collection merch, and like somebody came along and tried to get that shut down.
DDoS the entire site is controlled.
Well, it wasn't. They reported me as IP infringement. They pretended to be Craig Wright, and
which is
stuff like that. You just think, why would you bother? Why would you? I mean,
that's a bot doing that, man.
It just goes to show when they get down to that kind of petty level, you just think, oh, geez, we're fighting a kind of a war here, but it's yet another kind of.
And it's very much like Robert Malone, who invented the mRNA technology. He's been completely discredited for and talking about his own technology, and that's exactly what they've done to Craig. It's his technology; he invented it, but they've just discredited him for it because they know that it's actually a threat to business models. So certain business models, it's a complete, like, for example,
bigger than the big banks.
Yeah. So I'll give this quick example because this is what I did on this lecture, guest talk that I did at Exeter Uni. So I've got a MasterCard, and I used to run a Santa's Grotto. So if somebody came to me and they wanted a photo, it cost me it would cost the £7 to buy it, and I, as the retailer, would take that on a MasterCard, and that, as the retailer, would cost me 18 pence for that particular transaction. Okay, but then I'm also using a POS, a point of sale machine, which is costing me, say, 25 quid a month. So I'm paying that. So when you do a lot of those transactions, it's quite a lot for the retailer to be paying the bank for the privilege of taking your money. So if we do it with QR code to QR code, hand cash to hand cash, it's not going to, it's going to be 000
basically free
for a transaction. And that, if you think about, actually, you scale that up and you see how much money somebody like MasterCard will be losing if
there's a lot of motivation there.
But really, it's a phenomenal technology, and it doesn't just do one thing. And this is why I get upset about these cryptocurrencies, because it doesn't do anything.
They don't do anything.
None of them do anything. You can't do anything.
Even the NFTs are not stored on chain. They're just it's just in JPEG on somebody's server that can get removed
at any time.
And then your $1 million NFT is gone. It's such heaping bullshit, the whole thing.
Nikki, it's been an absolute pleasure. I always
really enjoyed that.
Thoroughly enjoy talking to you, and I love your channel. And I'm just going to put here again, if you are interested in watching any of Nikki's videos, she's on YouTube / Nikkiana Jones, as in Indiana Jones. And she opens up every single video with a nice little whistle of the theme tune from Indies movies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Dee. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
I
hope one day you can come back again and we can carry on going down dark, deep rabbit holes and talking about nubs and stuff, as well as Bitcoin and everything. So thank you so much.
Have a good one, guys. Thank you.